Jim,
Hey Lee,
how's it going?
it's been an interesting ride with GDK, so
Do you want to dive straight in and share your screen? Is that the easiest way to?
yes. All
Awesome.
right. So I'll explain what I did. So I did a fresh download of GDK from the whatever yesterday
Yeah.
day. And so I unzipped it and I'm running Windows if you can't tell.
Yeah.
I and then on here I did a opened it up like it said to.
Mhm.
Um, I was not able to get the keys working, but I can go and use Debian and as the password, get in and everything. So that's not a big worry. Okay.
Okay.
The worry that I have, or the issues I've been having, is I think I bricked the GDK because it won't even respond at this time. Now, I
Okay.
will say I did have it up and had errors. I then rebooted it at your because you mentioned some or someone mentioned something about a
Turning
reboot.
it off and on again can often fix it. Yeah, absolutely.
I turned it off and on again and it broke it so I can't even see it.
Okay. Okay.
So
So,
couple things I did. So I ran GDK doctor to see if there's any issues. And I also was looking around in the config to see if there was anything with make sure that it was actually told to run on 0000 to make sure that I didn't like accidentally make it so it ran on local hosts instead of every port. Okay.
yeah.
So
So I guess the first couple of things I would probably try would be ping in gdk.local from your host to see whether is it sort of resolving the DNS essentially.
yes, it
Okay,
is.
so
And I have this
that's
properly forwarded through to the firewall because it's on the NAT. So
okay. So that's interesting. So the way that I have configured it in the past, and you might be able to argue pros and cons against like one way being better or worse than the other. But I would normally have it so that it has its own, the VM has its own IP address, if that makes sense. And then you don't
yes.
need to do port forwarding, etc.
So if we come over here and come to my settings, so I was
Yeah.
having network issues. So fun fact, the latest version of VirtualBox, if you have it on Bridge, it blue screens. So I
Ah,
downgraded that, but I was not able to get it to talk on any of my adapters.
interesting. Okay.
It was like not picking up an address.
Okay, that's interesting. So remind me what the other options are. So we've got NAT bridged internal host name. Yeah, bridged, I think, is definitely what we want because we want the VM to be able to talk to the internet, but we also want you to be able to talk to the VM. I'm trying to think if there's another one of those options that actually supports that configuration. Let me check quickly. So VirtualBox networking modes. Should we just put it back on bridge for a minute and we'll maybe give it a reboot and see what and what so you're connected wirelessly at the moment. So which network? I don't know which one it would actually.
I have more network connections than
Wow. So it looks like so you've got Intel Wi-Fi 6E, blah blah blah, which is enabled and connected, right? But that didn't show up, did it, in your
correct.
why would that not show up as an option? That seems like almost the reason why you were maybe not getting an IP when you had configured it to bridge, but I can't see why. Is it worth you closing out of VirtualBox? But I can't see that as being. I'm just wondering if when VirtualBox was launched, maybe you didn't have the Wi-Fi connect. I can't see why that would be missing.
And I've definitely rebooted since I've installed VirtualBox because I kept blue screening because of the older version, and then I downgraded the version. I'm gonna try this one. Just say YOLO for this part.
Okay. We'll give it a but. Well, I mean, the other thing I'm thinking is like maybe the NAT option that you did, maybe that could work. As long as we're forwarding, I guess we need to forward port 22 for the SSH connection and then port 3000 for the HTTP connection. But then it's the other sort of random ones, if you know what I mean, that I don't think about. Like if you end up wanting to use container registry or even I think it's using that port 3038, etc. But let's see what happens anyway.
Alright, so I've lost all the entire console. So am I good to just
I
reset,
think
you
so.
think?
Yeah, I think so.
Debian IP address. Alright, it has no
No.
IP.
I'm just reading up on what the different network options are as well, actually. I think NAT, did you have it set to just NAT earlier on?
Yes, I did.
I don't. I'm looking at what NAT network is. So it's similar to NAT, but oh, okay. So maybe it doesn't make sense. It just says that that if you have more than one VM, they can communicate with each other. Keep reading. You cannot access the guest machine from the host machine. Unless using port forwarding. So that's not what we want then.
Okay,
That's
so
got to
I
be.
just got an IP. I have an IP of 10.0.2.15.
That's good. What mode are you on at the moment?
This is using the bridge
Still on
right now.
bridge. Awesome. Yeah, that's the IP that most people get actually when running this. So can we now ping that, I guess, is the first thing.
Let me set my registry, my host to the correct value.
Okay, cool. So you actually had to create a host mapping, did you, for...
Yes, let me just disable it and see if I can ping it.
So my understanding is, and I think you might be one step ahead here, that on Linux and Mac, that a VirtualBox will automatically create that sort of mapping, but on Windows, I think you're right, you do need to manually. Oh, it's getting an
Oh,
IPv6 address.
I that's interesting.
If possible, I mean, you could try and see what happens, but we'll probably want to disable or figure out how to disable IPv6 because it's probably going to make our lives super complicated.
All right, so before we go further, let me come to my .ssh. Uh, um, so I went into the config, right?
Yep,
And has host gdk.local user debian, right?
yep,
And then I put my identity file, which that should be the valid path to my GDK.
okay,
And when I open up that I copied and pasted it.
yep,
So when I got that earlier, I got an error saying something about it being in the wrong format.
okay,
And never seen that before. But also, it just doesn't work at all in here, where it doesn't
okay.
pick that up. So I don't know. Have you seen that before?
So it's quite possible that it's a sort of mistake or problem on my end because we've got the Mac VM and the Linux slash Windows, the VirtualBox one and the UTM one. At some point, I think I changed key, so it might be that there's a genuine mismatch. But let's connect using the password as you're about to do there. And if depending on, I think that the key will be on this box. So I think we might be able to compare those keys. And then yeah, hopefully we can figure it out.
Uh,
So
in the background, I am checking to see if it's connected, and it's saying no, it's not connected.
my
So if I
suspicion
do a
is that it's
GDK status,
listening. I think that it's probably listening on 0.0.0.0, but obviously that's not IPv6. So I suspect we need to simplify things and figure out how to switch IPv6 off.
okay.
Now, whether that's something that we can do in VirtualBox or whether we do it somewhere else, I don't know. But yeah, maybe VirtualBox is the first place to check. And also, we could check on the VM to see has it got a IPv4 address as well as an IPv6 address, but it's just favoring the V6 one for one reason.
It does have both addresses, it looks like.
Okay, good. So yeah, should we see if we can disable IPv6 in the VirtualBox settings or?
So I did not see it in the VirtualBox settings.
Okay.
So if I come here, machine settings, network, I
Doesn't
don't
look
see a
like it, does it?
setting for that.
So I think we either yeah, we probably need to have a look how to disable it on Linux and just tweak inside the VM.
Oh,
And the good thing is I'm recording this, so as I say, I need to update the VM anyway. So this is something that I can apply to the VM, and when I build the new package, I'll make sure that this is already set.
I'm not running the commands in there. I'm gonna run it inside because I can copy paste in here.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's saying add these 3 lines to the very bottom. Come on, you can do it.
Yeah.
I'm getting a
Okay,
reply.
that's an interesting IP address, though, right? Completely different to what I thought it had previously. Because it was like a 10.0.2.15 or something like that before.
All right. I mean, the matches IP address.
It does, yeah, absolutely.
Uh, okay.
Should try the
So,
SSH again just in case it's I don't know if the SSH daemon hadn't started or
all right. So you can see
okay.
that right there. That load key
Yeah.
invalid format. I will copy this into the ticket real quick.
Awesome,
Or
perfect.
not
Yeah,
ticket,
thank
the
you. No, no, that's great. That's great. Appreciate that. Thank you.
all right. So
Woohoo! That looks promising as long as it is actually loading and it's not hung. So yeah, should we try and figure out the key while we're waiting for that patiently?
I'm just watching HTOP to see these go down a little bit because then that will mean that GDK has started.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, if we look um on the oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's getting there, it's getting there. It's still, I think this is a sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, manifestation of I'm loading still. Um, Hopefully, if we give it
So
longer.
this is where my most recent there it goes.
Awesome.
And now I just have to remember what the password was.
Yeah, and if you can't, let me drop it in the. In fact, it's on the console. Although we closed the console, but I can drop it in Discord if it's easy.
I should be able to come in here. Well, if you got it before me.
And its root is the. So, is there a backstory as to why you're a Windows user? Is it just what you've always used, or is it like use it for work or college or anything like that? Or
Um, I did not want to turn the Linux computer that's sitting right next to me on.
oh, so you're both?
But
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, so I use multiple, and so I
Okay,
just didn't want to turn the other one on.
fair
And I
enough.
figured it would give us a chance to prove it out on Windows because I didn't think you guys would have had someone testing it on Windows
No, you're
as
you're
well.
quite
So,
right. We've got a lot less. I don't ask me why they're so blooming expensive, but I suppose they are powerful. The majority of people using it are on Mac at the moment, so it's nice to have people testing it on different OSs. So RIM, which is great, but I'd still quite like to try and fix that SSH key because um, when you come to like if you're going to connect VS Code or however you're going to actually do your development, having to repeatedly enter the password is
the
probably going to
pain
get
in
a
the
bit
rear.
frustrating.
Yes, I was already playing around in there, and it was a pain in the
So
rear end.
yeah, absolutely. So one option, if you're reasonably familiar with Linux, would just be to generate and use a new key. It doesn't really matter. The other thing, so when it's saying invalid format, do we think that's talking about the key or the path to the key? Is what I'm just with that message there with the double slashes almost. I'm like, is that actually
So
the
I had this load key error with both types of slashes. So
okay?
back and forward slashes.
Okay.
Uh, Hold on, that's my alarm. Sorry about that.
Yes, that's what it's saying. Even if it's the wrong key, I think that it would not give that message that that's saying that it's not in the format.
So what I'm going to try again is GDK in a box. Um, so I'm going to go look at standard setup instructions. And then what I did is I just took a look in here,
Perfect. Yeah.
and then I grabbed this baby,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I grabbed it from.
Just a quick search for you as well. Okay, so as silly as it sounds, can you open that file up in Notepad again? I think you might have already
Yes,
done this, but just in case, can you just add a carriage return right at the end? That's it.
let me try that again. So it doesn't appear to have liked it any better.
But it hasn't come up with that error, right? Or was that error come up
Um,
before or
it
after?
it will only come up with it the first time through. So let me
Okay.
try.
So I wonder if we should look on the VM. So connect using the password and just see if the private key is on the VM, then we can actually check and see if it matches.
Where would you have put that?
So I think it will just be in the home directory. It's .ssh directory. So yeah, so if you cat the IDRSA, I suspect. Oh, it does look like it matches, to be fair.
No, it's different.
Okay, okay. Should we try copying that out? Beautiful.
Yep. The one distributed looks to be wrong.
Right, great. Okay.
And I can tell because of this A down here. This was AD over here. And over here, it's AY.
Got it. Got it. So I think what I'll probably do is update the key on the VM rather than the key that we're sharing, if that makes sense, because the UTM one will match what's here. So I'll get that updated. So we had disable IPv6, update the key. There's another little thing that we've changed recently with regards to telemetry, but otherwise, yeah, okay.
So once I'm in here, I can just do a GDK update to update everything, right? To the
So
latest
we'll
version.
need to just change into get that development kit folder first. And then, yeah, fingers crossed, because it's, what is it, a month and a half since I updated this image.
I ran update earlier today, and I think that's what bricked it the first
Oh,
time.
okay. Okay. I take it took quite a while.
It took a little while, yes.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, like ideally, I was hoping initially to update these once a month, the sort of downloadable images. And then if the image seems to be successful, if that makes sense, if people are using it and it works and it's nice and easy and good, and then we'll probably try and script it so that it can be built, I don't know, whether nightly or something more frequently.
Okay.
But at the moment, it's a bit more of a manual process. But it's not too bad because I basically do what you're doing now. I sort of pull the fresh image, run the script, and then zip it back up again. So
Yeah, the biggest thing I noticed, and I run Omnibus at work, so I
okay,
manage our cluster at work, and just some of the Ruby scripts for the upgrade stuff just take forever because this is all in Ruby for this part, right?
yeah. I mean the thing that I've noticed, or I mean, again, it's the sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, luxuries that we get, but running it on the M1, the Mac, like it's pretty snappy. But running it on the Linux machine that I built this VM on, it's considerably slower. It is a beast. It is a monolith, and with all the sort of development runtimes or whatever they're called, the libraries, etc., it adds significant weight and bloat to it, so to speak. So, yeah, patience is definitely required. The other option you've always got, I don't know sort of, exactly where you are on your contribution path, so to speak, but Gitpod is quite a good option for. I'm going to say, I don't want to say more short-lived sort of merge requests and changes and that, but because it's a cloud development environment, it kind of takes a bit of the stress away. Although that's the point of this GDK-in-a-box, trying to abstract as much as possible from, doesn't matter what operating system you're using, it doesn't matter what you use in your day-to-day job, whether you're a Ruby developer or a C# developer or whatever. But yeah, Windows is definitely a little bit different, even starting from that script that it tells you to curl and execute that bash script, right, to add the SSH key and do a few other things. Clearly, that's not something you can do in Windows. So you've had to manually add those entries, like the SSH key, and modify the SSH
You're
config.
talking about the one that says this one right here, right?
So that one's fine because that's running inside the VM.
Right.
But the one above that we were looking at a minute ago, where you sort of had to inspect that file, right, to see what it does, and you had to kind of almost mimic that, like you wouldn't be able to run that on your Windows box, as far as I know anyway. I don't know a lot about, well, I do, I should know a reasonable amount. I worked in the Microsoft stack for about 20 years, but as far as I know, yeah, you wouldn't be able to execute that file on the host. So that's why you've kind of opened it up and said, oh, all it's doing is downloading this key, adding a host entry config to the SSH, and you've just done that manually, which is great, but we should really document that a bit better.
Okay. So that would be a good starting contribution for that part at least then, right? If I were to go and create a script for that, or at least
yeah, that'd be amazing.
steps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that part can just be done by downloading the GitLab development kit repository and making my edits, right? Because
So
I
I would
should
actually
be good.
go on.
I think I have or I know you added me to some community fork place. I
Perfect.
didn't
Yeah,
know if there
great.
was a community fork of this GDK or not. So
There is indeed. Let me get a link for it quickly. So I would actually recommend for updating the docs here, I would say probably best just to use the web IDE as well. You probably, it's overcomplicating things by cloning the repo, and if that's how you prefer to work, then by all means.
yeah,
But
I signed
I would.
everything with my private key, which you cannot sign with a private key on the IDE. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, I must admit, I don't know how pushing from the web ID works, but
so it
I'm just
signs
going
it
to
with
call
its
it magic.
own web IDE or with its own um yeah, with a separate um key. So
Okay. Yeah, in
so then I
doc,
fork this to my own area, right?
you
For
don't need
this.
to put now that we've given you access to this. So this is the fork, but it's almost like a collaborative fork, if that makes sense. That means that CI can run without the certain limitations that you might get if you had a private fork. And it allows you to collaborate with others if you want to. So you've got developer access to this fork, so you can create a branch and push directly to here, and then raise a merge request pointing at the actual canonical project.
Okay. All right. When I get to that point, which might be tomorrow, well, tonight for me, and I'll just hit you up to see what I have to do the merge request. So
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Perfect. Anything else while you got me, Jim?
yes. So I was taking a look at this issue right here. So replace all instances of report abuse to administrator with, let me move you, report abuse. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So in here, they had I went, they were talking in here where it contradicts. I cannot see this issue.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I didn't know if that's something you could tell me if this is still something that needs worked on or what.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you just drop the link to either this issue or the linked issue? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so that issue has been closed. And it's about, it says it's not clear where the abuse reports will go. So report abuse to admin. So the proposal is to change all copy to report abuse to administrator, as it makes it more clear where abuse is going. Which is funny, like you say, because it does contradict. So that was linked. Yeah, okay. So the conversation says, so Annabelle said, I opened an issue to shorten this to report abuse. I had already updated the note. Reasons for shortening it: decreases the chances of the content wrapping, it's fewer words. And when you click report abuse, the header then says report abuse to administrator. I'm fine with that. Likewise, thanks for the quick response. Okay, so I think we need to update the issue because the description or the title is misleading, because it sounds like we don't want to update all instances, or at least that's how I interpret it. That it's the action that we want to update. So where the button is should just say report abuse, but then when you click on it, we still want the kind of context, if that makes sense, to then potentially show report abuse to administrator. Like, so yeah, we shorten the action down, but then when you follow the action, it then takes you to another screen. No, that's not what I wanted to do.
So they're saying something like this right here, the page title. They want it to be report abuse to the administrator, right?
That's how I interpret it, exactly.
Let me wait for the search to pop up. Those are all translation files, which I cannot do. But in here, those are the
Just
specs.
tests, yeah. So did it only find the one? So like you say, they're all tests at the bottom, and right at the top you had one run result that wasn't. Oh no, sorry, there's a few. Okay.
But like this would go down to report abuse, right?
Well, this says, what does this say? This is the CI resource header. So can you see, if you search inside just this file, where the I1811.report abuse is referenced, It depends if it's like on a button or if it's just in a string, if that makes sense.
You're saying do a search in this file for the i8 and 11?
Yeah, dot report would probably be the easiest way to.
So report. Reported from URL.
View search report view. I mean, it's not going to help a great deal, but yeah, let's have a look. In the actual template is what we're interested in, which is what you're looking at here. So you keep scrolling a little bit. Let's see where this is used. Right. So template list item. It's a drop down.
Were you seeing the drop down?
So where it says on line 177, it's a GL disclosure drop down item. And on 166, a GL disclosure drop down. So yes, I think you're right that this, the problem is when we make these updates, like if you're going to work on this, we need to figure out where this component is actually used. We need to actually be able to see it in the GDK, and you'll want to kind of change the wordage and then almost do a before and after screenshot to show. But I mean, it's definitely doable, but sometimes takes a bit of digging to figure out, okay, this view component, based on its name or where it's used, how can we figure out where this actually is in GitLab?
Okay, fun.
But yeah, I would say that this one, you're right, does want updating because it's a drop down and this is the button, the report abuse button. But if we go back to your search results, like the first one that it found where it says title, I suspect that one probably
leave this one.
Exactly, will be one that we don't want to. Now, what is perfectly acceptable for you to do is do one or more that you think definitely want doing. Raise a merge request and then like ping the GitLab team if you're like, oh, I can't find this one, or I don't know where to look for this one. Can you help me find it? Or instruct me whether this one needs changing or not. So that's perfectly acceptable as an approach. And what I'll do is update the issue where we've linked that private issue. I'll update this issue just to reflect the discussion that happened on the private issue.
Okay.
So it makes a bit more sense.
The next question I have real quick on this is I see this report abuse, the pipe character, and then report abuse to administrator. Is that just saying that that's the hover over text? What's the pipe mean?
So you have two types of translations in GitLab. We have scoped or namespaced translations, and we have non-scoped or non-namespaced translations. So these are all scoped translations where the bit before the pipe is just almost a grouping or an indicator of like what they relate to, because sometimes the context is important with translations, if that makes sense. So I can't think of a brilliant example, but let's say the phrase work item. Maybe the phrase work item, you need to understand the context a bit better to be able to translate that, because when you're talking about like an actionable list, you might use in French a completely different verb or noun than you use when you're referring to it in a different context. So you, generally speaking, if you're modifying existing translations, you'll never touch the bit before the pipe. It'll only be the bit after the pipe that you're changing.
Okay. All right.
Feeling confident?
It'll be interesting, the first one. The other thing I think I'll take a look at is some of those Rubocop things that you were mentioning.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect.
And just because I can go up against a computer. I can just keep banging my head against that till the computer lets me win.
Awesome. No, it's great if you're attacking from several different angles because, yeah, if you get blocked on one, hopefully you can keep moving on the other. And yeah, fingers crossed.
All right, perfect.
Thanks for your time, Jim. And you know where to come if you get stuck.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Bye.
Have a great day. Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye bye.